Alrighty, guys. Armor Wars has been in development purgatory for a long, long time. First, it was announced, and I think it was announced with that original. Do you guys remember that original Disney's investors call where I think they announced the cast of Thor: Love and Thunder, the Marvels. They talked about Secret Invasion, which eventually did come out. And they talked about all these different projects, and they also brought up this little project called Armor Wars. I actually believe also, side note, that was the first time we got our announcement of a Fantastic Four movie coming out, which was really exciting. And lo and behold, we are just mere months, less than half a year away from Fantastic Four, which is so exciting. We just got our first trailer, which we'll obviously be talking about later on in this episode. But anyways, Armor Wars has been in limbo for quite a while. And we got, we've been getting rumors, right, and reports from, people who are sometimes reputable, sometimes not. I haven't really talked about it because the reports are that, well, it's not happening anytime soon. And so I've been waiting, let's just wait and see if we get any official confirmation, at least for something like this, where there's not a whole lot to talk about other than it's not happening for a while. But we actually just did get confirmation because Nate Moore, who's been doing, I guess, press for Captain America Brave New World, he is one of the producers for Marvel Studios. Remember, he's actually been one of the higher-up producers for Marvel Studios. And not only that, he is actually leaving the MCU as a full-time executive producer to do other things, but he will still be executive producing Black Panther 3, which he talked about. And that's where we got our official confirmation that Black Panther 3 is happening sometime soon. So Nate Moore is, doing comments, doing press and whatnot. And he was asked about Armor Wars, interestingly enough. And he gave this quote, which is, I think it's interesting. It's interesting. So let's talk about it here. He says, quote, that's not my project, to be honest. But I do know, as Marvel continues to go through this phase, we want to make sure whatever we're making is awesome. So that means we had to slow down some things that were on the front burner. It doesn't mean we'll never make it, but it does mean we just have to be a little more considered so that every time out, audiences are guaranteed quality. Okay, couple interesting things here because again, I didn't want to talk about a rumor that Armor Wars wasn't happening for a while because that we all kind of figured that. But this is interesting because it's coming directly from a producer from Marvel Studios. So first of all, first point of interest here. This is not my project. What this speaks to me is the fact that there has been, because of the increased output at Marvel Studios, where before Kevin Feige was overseeing 3 movies a year, right? And he could do it. I'm sure he obviously had his executive producers, Victoria Alonso, who has since left. Louis D'Esposito is still there as, I guess, the president or co-president or whatever, because Kevin Feige is the CEO of Marvel Studios. I don't know. It's complicated. But anyways, so we have that, and then, we had Nate Moore, obviously, as another producer, and then other people as well. But yeah, the fact that he says that's not my project means there is some kind of compartmentalization going on within Marvel. And I guess on the one hand, it's a little concerning, right? Because it's like, part of the joy of the MCU, if you rewatch the Infinity Saga, which, God bless you if you do. It's going to take you a long time. We did that here on the channel a while ago. Anyways, it's going to take you a while, but what you're going to find, and what impresses me every single time, is the fact that it's so interconnected. Every movie, or almost every movie, had some references or something, that was from the film directly preceding it, which is amazing, right? That is incredible because those movies were in production simultaneously. That's how movie making works. It's not like, just because a movie comes out 6 months apart, 2 movies come out 6 months apart means that they had nothing to do with one. Like, it was staggered productions. They were in production simultaneously, So the fact that you could set up all of Black Panther and then have Wakanda be such a big part of Avengers Infinity War, a film that came out basically 2 months after Black Panther, is incredible. That kind of synergy. But it looks like that's just not the case. And we've seen that in the end product as well in the MCU that, well, yes, I think that some things in the MCU's Phase 4 and Phase 5 have been pretty good. There hasn't been a lot of interconnectivity in that same way where it's like, WandaVision has nothing to do with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, has nothing to do with Loki, has nothing to do with Black Widow, has nothing to do with Shang-Chi, nothing to do with Eternals. There's not that kind of synergy going on, which I think it's indicative of maybe a problem going on with Marvel, even as they continue to try to up the quality again. So I think that's an interesting thing to note here in these comments. The other interesting thing, or a couple other interesting things, is the fact that he says it was on the front burner. So it means that it definitely was on the fast track to being made, which makes sense because it was at the time when, again, output was king, right? Make as much stuff as you possibly can. But the final interesting thing, again, other than the fact that he's like, we want to make good stuff, which is great, I think that re-emphasis on quality is always a good thing. But the other interesting thing is that he makes the caveat that it's not my project, so I don't have the most insight into it. But he says, quote, it doesn't mean we'll never make it. And then he goes on to talk about the quality. But that seems to indicate they may not make it at all. It's ironic, right? Because by him saying, well, my comments don't mean we'll never make it. Like, it just because we put it on the back burner doesn't mean we'll never make it. Actually kind of seems to indicate to me there is a distinct possibility they may not make it. Just by implying that there is a possibility, right? And I think that that's an interesting twist here, because it's not like, I for whatever reason, Blade has been delayed over and over and over again, but every single time that Feige or the producers are asked about it, they're adamant. They're adamant. They're like, no, we're going to make this movie. But with Armor Wars, the tone's a little different, don't you think? It's almost like, yeah, I mean, we'll probably get to it. And so it makes me a little curious, a little bit worried, because I do like Rhodey. I don't know if I'd be super excited about an Armor Wars movie, to be quite honest with you, until I see the premise, until I see, what the show, or the movie, excuse me, because it used to be a show. It was going to be a show, and now it's going to be a movie. But until I see what the premise is going to be about, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of curious to see where this project goes. Is it going to turn into Blade, where maybe eventually it comes out? And again, we don't even know if Blade's going to come out at all. Or is it just going to quietly fade into the distance? We don't know. And again, Nate Moore is he says it himself. He's not the person most qualified to talk about it, but we'll have to see about that. Guys, do you think at this point that Armor Wars is going to come out, or do you think that it's just going to quietly disappear, kind of like, the Avengers dusted in Thanos' snap? Let me know in the comments down below.